do it that way. Okay, are we all good to go? Great, okay. So this is what we're doing, we know it's that. But what we're looking at right now, if I come into process, as this group is sort of analysis group A, we have analysis group B, and but both are doing the same work but on different parts of the project, but identical work, okay? So as a group we're going to organise, refine and cluster the survey responses we've got to Kickstart Workshop 1. So we're actually at this point in our overall process. Now if you haven't got an original copy of the overall process, please let me know, or let Ulrike or Esther know, and we'll make sure you get a copy of that overall process. But this is the context of where we are right now. So it's phase 2. Phase 1 was getting it all started, getting the survey out to people, getting the survey responses back, and the preparation work to be able to do what we're doing today, which is we want to start to see the subsystem, the dimensions within month 2, that's now. So we're having this 1-hour meeting with the core team to actually produce the process, so you know what the process is. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking to work on the survey responses for H1, Horizon 1, Horizon 3 and Horizon 2. And then the core group, that's us in combination of analysis group A and B, to look at the outcomes. Now we said 3 2-hour meetings, we've actually shifted that to a different format, but that's okay. And then we want an initial 3 horizons map is created. What that initial 3 horizons map looks like, I'm going to show you, rather than just, so if you have any concerns or questions, let's just get through the last couple of slides and see whether it answers any issues that you may have. Okay, so that's where we're up to in our overall process. Just a reminder, in our survey, Horizon 1 had 3 questions, Horizon 3 had 3 questions, and Horizon 2 had 2 questions, so 8 questions in total. So as a group of 2 analysis teams, we are working with 8 questions overall. They're in the Google survey form and the links at the end of the video. So this was just taken from the survey video that we put together. Here are our survey results. These are the actual real live results, okay, that we've actually got from our survey. We had over 700 individual distilled answers. Now, a distilled answer, quite often when people respond to the survey, they put in a long piece of text with 4 or 5 items in it, and everybody does it in a slightly different style. The distilled answers are we extract each of those issues that they're raising as a separate item, and that is what we're referring to as a distilled answer. Okay, so we had 23 people complete the survey, which is slap bang in my personal ideal zone between minimum of 20, maximum of 25. 23 is just perfect as far as I'm concerned. That's really great result. Okay, and the stats are rather interesting. Horizon 1 had 274 responses, Horizon 2 had 130 responses, and Horizon 3 had 299 responses. That's spookily similar to a project I'm also working on where we had 275, 131, but not 299 of Horizon 3. Often the results come back in that Horizon 1 has the most, because that's the world we know most about. Horizon 3 comes second, we know more about where we're trying to get to, and Horizon 2 is always less responses, because that's what this entire work is about. It's about trying to figure out how we get to that 3rd horizon. The core team is this, who will be processing the whole lot into a graphic representation. Suzanne, Catherine, Peter, Bob, Jan, Ulrike, Esther and Ian. That's the team that's going to be working on this. Now, what we're looking to do when we distill this work down, this is a real 3 horizons map from a global seafood group that are looking to transform global seafood. What we will end up with is something that looks like that, but actually the content will be specifically the Fix Our Food project. What I'm going to do is just zoom in here, because you can't see this, so I'm going to zoom in on this one so you can see what these clusters look like. So, oh, my error, sorry, we added this just before we came online, okay? The 8 questions are all color coded. Question number 1 up here is top left, and it's that number 1 is centered actually in the question itself. So when you look at this map, you can read what question 1 is, and you can see that question 1, they're all color coded, so all the ones that are this red color are question 1, all the ones that are pink are question 2, and so on. 3, 4, 5, 6 over on the right hand side, because we always go from Horizon 1 to Horizon 3, and then we come back to 7 and 8 for Horizon 2. Okay, so we're going to produce something that looks like that, but with our specific content and structure in it. If I zoom in, what I've just done is zoomed into this one here, which is the fit for purpose industry strategies. This is in the global seafood. If I click, it looks like this. What we're going to look at in a moment or two are the actual post-it notes. They're not actually post-it notes, they're just digital squares on the screen. But they tend to get called that. We're going to look at the real ones we've got for our work from the survey. And the work we're going to do tomorrow is to cluster them together, where you find a theme, you bring them together as a group, you give it a title, and that's the work done for tomorrow, as long as we tackle the particular questions. Okay, so we're going to be working to do that tomorrow. And we're going to be showing you the software that we're going to use and how we actually go about doing that in this call. Okay. Next, then what we do is strip away the individual post-it notes from around those circles. So this map you see here is exactly the same as that map with the post-it notes around it, but without the post-it notes around it. Okay. Now the reason for that is we're now starting, as it were, to zoom out. Okay. We've looked at full detail. We can't possibly handle, and by the way, this one here, what you're looking at right now, has around about 640 post-it notes. So this is fairly representative of the kind of complexity we're working with. The reason we do this right now is because we're now looking for the next pattern out, and we will start to cluster the cluster titles themselves. Because what we're actually looking for is the major themes in all the three horizons and how they link together and influence each other. I'm not going to go into that right now, but the object of the exercise tomorrow is to get 4 questions to that kind of a state where we actually have the clusters and then just the cluster titles. What happens after that, I'll talk us through, but that's our task at hand for now. What I've done already, I've created a mural that looks like this, ready, because what we want to do on the 17th is show the work that we have done. At the top model up here, this will have, as you've just seen, the titles with all the post-it notes around it, and the bottom one will just be the same thing but with the post-it notes taken away. The reason for that is that as we go through the process, it's always, not always, but on occasion it's really important to be able to look back to what was in that cluster, what were people actually saying that made us give it that title, because I can't quite remember, or I didn't do that work on that particular cluster. Help explain it to me, please. So this is like an audit trail that goes all the way back to the survey. And the work that we've done over the weekend is to actually take the survey results, put them into a Word doc and number them, and then convert them into Mural ready to graphically process. But we have those master documents that take us back to the survey. That's there to maintain integrity of what's actually in the survey. And if what we have to do, I think there might be a record-breaking paragraph of one of the answers which went to 60 words. For one of the answers. Well, putting 60 words onto a post-it note, you ain't going to do it, okay? So you've got to work to break that down, because most often it says, the issue is this, it's proven by that and that and that, and it's influencing this and that and the other, and if we don't do this, it'll go even worse. You get those kinds of responses. I'm caricaturing it, but it's a bit like that. Our role is to actually distill those down without losing the essence of what the contributor put in their response. Okay, that's what we have to do. So there'll be work of that nature to do in the work tomorrow as well. There aren't many like that. Over the weekend, all the distillation's been done, with the exception of 3 or 4. The reason I've left those for the team to do is because some of them are a bit content specific. You need to know a little bit more than I do about the Yorkshire food system and who the players are and what the issues are, to be able to maintain the integrity of that response and to capture the essence of it. Okay, but we'll end up with a map that looks like that. Top map with the cluster titles and the post-it notes, bottom map just with the cluster titles. This is one of the murals that's been created over the weekend. This is our actual real live work, okay? And I have to confess and hold my hand up, mea culpa, the colour's wrong. I got the colour wrong, okay? But I'll correct it, don't worry about that. So this is a screen grab, so I can't zoom in right now, but we're going to zoom into this very soon. I can't zoom in right now to this. This is a screen grab of, we now have 8 murals, one for each of the questions. They all look like this, they're all colour coded, and down here are the basic circles for which we use for the cluster titles. It'll be difficult for you to read, but these little white dots on these cluster titles, this one says if you've got less than 3 in a cluster, use this size. If you've got 3 to 5, use that size. If you've got 5 to 8 or 6 to 8, use that size. If you've got 9 to 12, use this size, and if you've got 13 plus, use this size. The reason for that is when you take the post-it notes away, but you can still see the size of the cluster title, it gives you a rough graphic indication of how many responses there are that went into that cluster that got grouped with a common theme. Am I making sense so far? This all okay? Great. Okay, thank you. Right. And I say we have one mural done, ready to go for each of the questions. And we're going to end up tomorrow making something that looks something like that, but this time just for Fix Our Food. Now, a question that I imagine is brewing is, so why are some of those green, two different colours of green? What's going on there then? Sometimes, not often, but sometimes we find people put a response in and you read the response and say, do you know what? That's a really valid point, but its context is more to do with Horizon 1 than it is to do with the Horizon 3 stuff, okay? So you have a dialogue in your group to say, what do we think? And if we think that's the case, bring it across. That's okay. But we leave the colour coding intact so that we can see where it came from. And again, integrity is maintained. I don't know whether you spotted it before. If I just go up very briefly, if I go back up, not to there or to there, to there, I don't know whether you can see that each of these squares is numbered. Every single one of them is numbered. That also allows us to track back to the survey. But each colour code starts with 1. So pink will have number 1, 2, 3, 4. Green will have number 1, 2, 3, 4. But a green 1 or light pink, whatever it turns out to be, it's just a question of maintaining the audit trail and the integrity. So that's what we're looking to do tomorrow. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, of course you can, Catherine.
Just related to that, because I know, so when I answered the survey, I didn't really get the difference between question 1 and question 2.
Yep.
So can we also move things between, because so I didn't really know what to put in question 2 because it was about sort of fit or something. I can't remember. I didn't really understand. Can we move things between questions?
Well, that's exactly what I'm suggesting here. That if you genuinely decide actually that one fits better there, then
okay. Yeah, you were talking about horizons, but I was just wondering about within the questions as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're quite right, Catherine, to observe that. My error. Yes, question to question. So it might be that it's a question. It's Horizon 1, question 2 response feels more like a Horizon 1, question 1 response. That's cool too. Yes, absolutely. Yes, it is. You don't want to do that all over the place because if you're not careful, you end up rewriting the intention of the response. Okay? And subconscious bias can come in, you know.
I mean, it was just one thing in terms of going forwards, because I know several of us struggled. We didn't really understand what question 2 meant. So perhaps that's a sort of learning for other subgroups going forward.
It's an odd one that that happens sometimes. The difference, just very quickly in this call right now. Question 1 is what shows you that Horizon 1 system is out of is not fit for purpose, basically. Now, if you froze it in time, it's not fit for purpose now. What we're looking for, is it stable but not fit for purpose? And Horizon 2 is the fit decreasing even more as time goes by? So it's not only is it not fit for purpose, it's decreasing. It's going even further downhill. Okay? Because if it's just not fit for purpose but stable, you can correct that in a different way than if it's actually decreasing. What are the things that are making it less and less fit for purpose as time goes by? Addressing those. That gets into the systemic stuff.
No, that's a bit clearer. I don't think it said fit for purpose. It said, how does it fit environmental, political?
What is it that shows it has a decreasing fit with other systems with which it interacts?
Yeah, to me, so we shouldn't go on to this too much, but there was nothing about it being wrong. It just wasn't fitting those systems. I didn't really understand what you meant by fitting those systems.
Oh, okay.
I understand it a bit more if you say, okay, it's sort of decreasingly bad, but fit to a system was like, oh, I didn't really understand that. Yeah.
Okay, let's just dwell on this for a moment because I think it's an important point and it needs to be clear for you when you're going into your work tomorrow. Okay. Decreasing fit for purpose in its interactions with other systems. Well, if the other system, like economic system, is changing rapidly, and actually the food system is not, its fit is decreasing over time because that economic system is changing and the food system isn't adapting to change to maintain its relationship. Okay.
But what if the economic system was becoming worse, but the food system was becoming better?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't fitting it, but actually we wanted that. We want the food system to become to do with perhaps a different economic way of doing economics.
Yeah, well, you could highlight it by saying it's losing its fit with economics, but it's economics that you can actually put that in your response if you want to. Yes, absolutely right.
Okay.
You can. There's just I'm going to just explain a little point about systems and how the interaction. There's a thing called structural coupling, which is what happens when two systems interact with each other. They stay coupled together, and hopefully they co-evolve together. That's the whole point we're trying to get to in Horizon 3, is co-evolution of the environment, where actually the economic system changes and they each influence each other. So maybe the food system actually helps the economic system develop. There's a coupling there. And the reason it's called structural coupling is to stay in coupling when one changes. The way you change behavior is to change the structure of something. So you might find if the economic system changes its behavior, its structure, to stay in coupling with the food system, maybe that has to change its behavior as well. It's like a dance, okay? So that's what it's sort of pointing to.
So that, that's really interesting. But I guess just thinking about Johan's sort of views always seems to be, a system is there to revert back to how it, to be stable and robust. So if you're saying that you want to then change the food system to stay coupled with the economic one, it just seems like you're stuck in Horizon 1. Nothing's going to change.
Well, the view, ultimately what you have, not ultimately, that's the wrong word, forgive me. Contextually what is going on is the food system has to couple to the overall system of which it is a part. It's a part of that overall system. It's not apart from that.
But
system.
How it couples could change.
Yeah, well, how it couples might have to change for it to be able to change its structure. Because it's actually, it should be a co-evolutionary process. And if in Horizon 3 we haven't got that co-evolution process working really, really well, so the food system adapts and helps produce a healthy planet, etc., 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 then that's sort of the object of the exercise, really, in a good part anyway. Not completely the object of the exercise, but that's a critically important aspect. Okay, co-evolution, co-creation, I'm suggesting is part of where we're trying to get to. Okay. And we may disagree with that. But the other thing that is, right now, we need to wait and see what comes out of Horizon 1, Horizon 2 and Horizon 3. Because the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 projects I've worked on like this over the last year or so, Horizon 2 has been a surprise for the people that are actually producing the survey. They didn't see what Horizon 2 looked like. Quite a surprise. Okay. Okay to move on, Catherine? We okay? We good? Yep, thanks. Right, so how are we going to do this work? The responses have now been prepared for use in Mural software. That's done. Done. Nothing to worry about on that. It's ready to go. Apart from one of them's got the colour wrong. We agree which questions each team will work on. We need to do that in this meeting today, and we have a fairly robust suggestion for you. That's it. And then the 9th, tomorrow, Analysis Group A, that's present now, completes the basic clustering for each question. Analysis Team B completes it on the 15th of November, which is Monday.
Right, Ian, can I just jump in here? So what we've done, just to clarify, is we've got you as a core group. We've just cut you down the middle, not literally, into 2 subgroups. So one group will work on the 9th and another group will work on the 15th. So that's what Ian means by Team A and Team B. Sorry, that probably wasn't clear. But yeah, we just to allocate the workload, basically. So that's where we're at.
Thanks, Esther. And we actually name teams A and B who are no, do we? No, we don't. No, we haven't.
Are we the A team?
Oh, yes, but not. It doesn't mean anything.
I know, I'm teasing. Competition. We want to be A.
You are the A team, Catherine.
Because I thought I was B team because I've got B in the diary, but not A.
No, Peter, you're the B team. We're going to show this all in a couple of slides time.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. It was just, I thought I'd better just jump in quickly because Ian was using that terminology already. And I was like, oh, they won't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, my error. Sorry. Okay. Go back. Okay, right. Step 1, work in the mural. We have 1 mural for each question. So you're not trying to build a complex overall map. You're just focusing on 1 question for tomorrow. Read each response and distill further, brackets if needed. So I know, for instance, there are maybe a dozen, maybe 15, I can't give you the exact number, of responses that need further distillation. Some of them have 25, 30 words. One has 60 words, and it may not be that you get the 60 word. Another one's got 50, another one's got 45. They need to be distilled down further. Okay. Now, part of my enthusiasm for having teams of people working on this rather than an individual working solo is I know if I do this, I will bring you my unconscious bias. I don't know I'm doing it, but I will do, okay, as I'm looking at it. Whereas if 2 or 3 people say, what's that one mean? Does that one really fit there? Why do you think it fits there? Well, it fits there because of this, that and the other. Oh, I hadn't realised that. And those kind of dialogues is what happens in this kind of work. I find from experience that happens anyway. So read each response and distill further if needed. Then, that shouldn't be 3 and 4, it should only be 1. No, Bill's gone wrong. Find common threads and group the responses. Okay, so you're saying, well, this one is talking about, I don't know, regenerative farming, say. There's another one talking about regenerative farming. You just do the normal clustering work that you would do. And try not to have more than 10 responses in a group. And that can be an iterative process. And quite often what happens is, Esther says, I think this one goes here. And Ulrika says, really? You think that one goes there? Why do you think that? Because of blah, 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 blah. Well, actually, if that's the case, this one fits that. That's the kind of dialogue that I love seeing happening because we're interacting with each other. And what's actually happening is a shared clarity is emerging and we're learning together as we go. Okay? And then select the appropriate size of cluster title circle, which is at the bottom of the mural. You've got all those there ready to use. And I've explained the reason why that is that as we go through the process. The other thing is that cluster title has to be understandable, comprehensible, and standing completely on its own. Because later in the process, you will only have the cluster title. You won't have all the post-it notes to complete referring back to. So getting a cluster title, I said, well, we had that. If I read that without knowing anything about it, within the context of Horizon 1, fine. Would I understand what that means? That's your sort of acid test. And sometimes you think you've got it right, and then when you share it, people say, what does that mean? And you realise you've got to actually amend it, okay?
Ian, can I, very quick query, and I don't want to get bogged down in detail, but on number 3,
yes,
you gave an example of this one's about regenerative farming and so is this, so therefore we bring them together as an example.
Yes.
If you thought that, and I looked at them both, and I say, yeah, they're both about regenerative farming, but this one is about ambition of changing all my stakeholders, and this one's about a technical aspect of regenerative farming. I'll make this up.
Yeah.
We could build the clusters around different things. So is there a criteria or guidance for consistency of how we build clusters? Sorry to ask
no, it's all right.
An awkward abstract question.
No, it's not an awkward abstract question at all. It's a very valid question. Quite often what happens is you do your basic clustering quickly to begin with, and then you do what we've done here, group the selected responses around the circle, and then generate a cluster title. And as you go around the circle, reading what we've done in our basic clustering, the exact comment that you've just pointed us to, Peter, comes out. And people say, no, hang on a second, that's not what we thought it was. Actually, there's 2 clusters here, but they both relate to regenerative farming, but they're different important aspects of it. And that way you can, so that's exactly what we're looking for, which is why it's not just a question of it's got the same word in it, put it together. It's not that, okay. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. It's just, I know if I did it on my own, and like you just said, there's going to be bias, and the more people do it, or up to a certain level, then you get the discussion. It's just, yeah, it's just whether, I don't know, if we came in with a certain mindset, it's all to do with level of change, and we're clustering around change mechanisms, or we're just clustering around the type of change, or the application of change. So it could be, one could be regenerative farming, another one could be schools, let's say, I'm making these up, or it could be cut different ways. And it's just, I'm reading it as it is what it is of our best interpretation of what we've got and we can make most use of. And so it's not a free for all, but no, it's fluid.
It has to be interpreted within the context of the question the responses are about. Okay, so question 1 is, what do you see around you right now that says the current system is not fit for purpose? You're looking for that hard. You're actually looking for hard evidence there. Whereas when you get to question 2, it's more or less a what do you feel question, because you're talking about the future and horizon. Sorry, when you get to horizons 2 and 3, you're actually more talking about the future, so it becomes subjective insight rather than objective data. Okay, and then you're looking for, well, what is this actually indicating has happened in horizon 3? So that I come out of my time machine, here I am in 2031, and I can see that and that and that and that and that taking place. Okay, you're looking for several things. Does this, do the things that we imagine, that we aspire to in our horizon 3 are actually addressing the horizon 1 questions? If they are, that's great. Okay, but it's a question of looking at the, sorry, so let me start again. It's a matter of looking at the question that the responses are about and clustering them in accordance with that as the priority. Does that help?
Ian, can I just jump in there quickly and say, if you're coming across that a lot, Peter, and all of you actually, it might also mean that you need to go back and review that post-it note. Is it actually 2 points in a post-it note? You know, do you need to distill them out? Because you know how survey open questions, you put everything down all in, cluster it all together. You might need to just go, okay, well, that's an important point we don't want to lose. That deserves a separate point, actually.
Yeah. In fact, this is now me thinking on my feet. It might be helpful, or it might be a distraction, I don't know, to actually show you the rough text that comes out of the survey and what happens to what I do when I distill that down, so as you can see what's already been done to do exactly what Esther's just talking about. That might be helpful, or it might be a distraction right now, I don't know.
I'm conscious, Ian, we've got half an hour left. Let's focus on what's necessary in terms of looking at each of a mural example, and by talking through that, I think it will become clear.
Okay, doke. And then does the title make sense on its own? That's important. Okay. And then if tomorrow you get to the point where you didn't quite complete the work, I would ask you please if you can reconvene to actually see if we can get it done. Okay. Or if you hit roadblocks. Now, I was going to be available for all of tomorrow, but I've actually been invited to go up to COP26. So I'm heading north, not quite immediately after this meeting, but later on this afternoon. I'm off there to actually go and look at a bioregion transformation that's actually taking place, and to meet the people involved in what they're doing and so on and so forth. So as a learning point for me, it's a one-off learning point as far as I'm concerned. Okay, because I'm working with quite a few bioregions, so therefore I won't be there. However, Esther and I have worked together to make sure we are in good shape for tomorrow, even if I'm not there. And I think we're going to be fine. Okay, but I just wanted to surface that with you. So that's the reason why I sent out a cancellation notice for the meeting tomorrow. And Esther's sent out a new meeting notice with her Zoom URL. Okay, are we okay to continue? Good. Okay, let's carry on. Now, there you go. The A team, only in alphabetical order, that's all it means. It's Catherine, Ulrika, Suzanne and Bob, and the B team is Peter, Jan and Esther. Okay, that's where we're up to, that's what's meeting tomorrow. And what we've said is that A team looks at H1Q1, 2 and 3, and H2Q1. The B team looks at H3, the same thing, but H3, Q1, Q2 and Q3, and looks at Horizon 2, Question 2. So we're splitting Horizon 2 between us. Now, that is not insignificant. Okay, the reason for doing this work often, not always, is you do Horizon 1 and Horizon 3 so that you can frame Horizon 2 and figure out how you're going to get this transformational journey to happen. Okay, so actually each team doing one of Horizon 2 questions is rather important. Horizon 2 question 1 that the A team will be doing, or I think we should really call it Team A rather than A team, actually. I think we might have a naming change coming up on us here, Esther. Each time I say it, I think, you know. And the A team, for those of a certain age, has television connotations as well. Okay, right. So what I'm saying was, Horizon 2 question 1 is, what do you see around you right now that are initiatives underway and present that are looking to pull us out of Horizon 1 towards Horizon 3? That's what you'll be looking at tomorrow. The Team B will be looking at what do you think needs to happen that isn't happening yet, what needs to be brought into existence, okay? And then when we come together as an overall group to review all this, then we'll have an interaction to say, okay, let's now look at it all together, okay? Right, so that's that. Oh, that's the end of the Prezi. Okay, so what I would look to do, if I can, because you can see I haven't quite prepared this bit. If I go up to there and bring this into play and zoom out on that. Hello, this is a test with Ian. Okay, that's what we were doing earlier. Now, hands up please. Who is familiar with this software called Mural? Catherine is, Ulrich is, Bob is, Peter's no. Okay, and yes.
I just assume it's the same as any online mapping tool, so just carry on without me, as it were.
Right, so this is the actual mural. You saw a screen snapshot. Suzanne, by the way, please forgive me. You disappeared off my gallery view, so I wasn't conscious of you. I need to change.
Oh, yes, I have done. I'm used. Yeah.
Okay.
I know. I've used it before. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Thank you. No, I was apologising to you because I didn't have you in view. Generally.
That's okay.
That's okay. Right. So here's our actual mural. I have given Esther all the links to make this, everybody here, an editor of this mural, and I'll also be taking a safety copy before tomorrow, because sometimes what happens when people move everything around all at once, things can go a bit awry sometimes. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does, and having a safety copy backup is a helpful thing to do. So if I zoom in, zoom is pretty much as mural, I should say, is pretty much as you'd expect it to be. In fact, if I do this, oh no, would it be helpful, Esther, please advise me, would it be helpful if we shared the link for this mural right now so people can not just look at my shared screen but can actually look at the actual mural? Would that be helpful right now?
I think so. If we just quickly share it in the chat and everyone follows you, that might be a better way of doing it.
Okay, so I'll do this now. I'll do a fresh link for you. You see me doing what I'm doing. Visit the link, and you have editing rights, okay? Or you will have editing rights. That's copied, that's done. If I now just go to the chat box and go to here and go like that, in the chat box you should now have editing rights. You'll be able to just dive in. There you go. And down at the bottom here I can see what's helpful, by the way, is when you get the invitation is to actually put your name in, because what I know is I've got a visiting horse, I'm following Bob, and I've got Bob Doherty is a visiting ladybug. There you are, new name for you, Bob. Peter is a visiting fish. Okay. A week or so ago I had a visiting goat who pointed out that goat is just the acronym for greatest of all time. So
if you hover over Ian's avatar or whatever you want to call it, and you can actually say click on follow Ian, and then you can just follow his movements in mural. Peter, does that make sense to you? Peter's gone.
Alternatively, I can also ask to be followed, so you should now all be getting a request to follow me. But quite a few, 4 people are now following me anyway, so I think we're fine. Okay, we good to go? So if I zoom in, your screen should now also be zooming in. Okay, and you can see the difference of the responses we get. This one just says silos, whereas some of these are much more wordy. And there's one over here which is quite wordy. Oh no, that's the familiar one. That's the one that says I'm not familiar with the local economy or the local food systems. I want to get a national view. Okay. So what we would do in dialogue is say, okay, let's just find somewhere to start from. Okay, what about if we went for poor food culture and pull that one out? And then say, well, what can we see that fits with that? There you go. There you go. Yeah. Oops, sorry, I moved that by mistake. So you can see that right now Bob is moving stuff around, so is Ulrike. Okay, so we're off, we're away. Okay. You see, I put the huge popularity of fast food restaurants there myself, so I just moved it as well. Okay. Now this is literally what we do. So this is the work you'll be looking to do tomorrow. If we do this face to face, by the way, in a room around a whiteboard with sticky notes, we quite often do silent clustering, so nobody talks whilst this is happening. And what you see is you watch how people are moving things, and one person moves it to this cluster and somebody else moves it back again, and the original person moves it back again and then back again, until eventually you have to say, so what's going on here, you know, and you get that dynamic coming in. Okay, let's just stop at that. I think we've got that bit done. Okay, yep, we're okay with that. Now the next thing we can do is say, well, what's this cluster all about then? Anybody want to volunteer an opinion what this cluster is about? That's not a rhetorical question, by the way. That's a question for actually now. What, Catherine?
Wait, can I just ask another one that just came up? So, number, I think it's 67.
Yeah.
Like that, I think it was one of mine. I don't know. I can't remember. But like to me, that's two different points in the same box. Can we split them out?
Yeah.
Because it says like increasing use of food banks and then low incomes of farmers. So to me, that's two different.
Right. I'm having difficulty seeing.
It's right. It's third column from the right.
Yep.
About two. There, just up from no. It was just above where you are. Go down.
Oh, from the right. There's me. Easy looking from the left. Oh.
And yeah, just where Bob's going, nearly there. You've got number 65. It's below 65. There you go. It's just coming up above our.
Oh, increasing use of food banks, low incomes of farmers. Yes, that one.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I would split those. But I mean, I don't know. Do you want to?
Let me show you the way I've found to be helpful for splitting things. Okay. Can you see my shared screen right now?
Yeah.
Because if you watch my shared screen rather than the actual mural, you'll see things in the shared screen that you won't see in the mural. Okay, and in the actual mural. So if I click on this one here, you can see that I clicked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I now go on a Mac. I go Command D. On a Windows machine, I go Control D. It's the standard key for duplicate. Okay. As it is in Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, it's a standard shortcut. I go Control D, and I get a second copy of it. Okay. All I have to do is click on this one on the left, remove the low income for farmers, and then do the same thing on the right, but remove the increasing use of food banks, and then renumber them so they make sense. And the best way of doing that is just to make this one 67A.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay,
67B.
cool.
So that if you want to revert back and say, where did this come from? You can look at the original survey response, and that's where the 67 still comes in. So you don't lose the integrity of it all.
Great, thank you.
That makes sense? So what's this cluster about then? I haven't read it properly. What's it about? Somebody tell me what this is about.
I'd say there's a few things in there. I couldn't put a name to it personally.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a very coherent cluster, to be honest.
Go on then, Bob. You had your hand up.
Yeah, I think it's this is my starter for 10. Poor food culture leading to unhealthy dietary outcomes.
Right. Okay. And at which point somebody could say, well, I don't think it's about that. I think it's a bit different than whatever you might think. Okay, and that's okay too. But you'd have a dialogue around it, and then what I'm doing right now is creating a circle, because we're going to put a circle title in there. And sometimes it's easiest, I find, if we start at the top, everybody can say we're starting at the top and read round what is here. And I find if you read them out loud, you start to find out whether they are dissonant or resonant, if that makes sense. Okay, so we got poor food culture. We have unhealthy products dominating as part of that poor food culture. Again, too many fast food outlets, and they're not held to account. But the consumers are detached from where their food comes from. Another outcome is we've got obese children. Ease of accessibility, easy accessibility of low quality, highly processed food. Huge popularity of fast food restaurants. Widespread mental health problems in the farming community. That doesn't seem to sit in with what this cluster's about. Okay, so would it be all right if I took that out and said, don't think that fits there actually? Unless somebody says, no, the reason I put that in is because, and you have a dialogue around it. Okay. So you got increasing obesity. Well, poor food culture, unhealthy products, that seems to fit together. This fast food outlets and the huge popularity of fast food outlets, do you think that might be a separate culture, a separate cluster? What do you think? I don't know. Okay, Catherine says no. Bob says no. Okay, great.
Sorry, I'm just thinking these two. So in a way, it's different level, because if we summarize it as a group, all these diets or bad diets, or what Bob said, bad food culture resulting in bad diets, that works. But the question is, like, how specific should it be? Because we could separate it into like supply of foods, and then have, I don't know, taste or demand as a separate thing. So
what will happen is you will have these dialogues, and then eventually you'll actually have everything clustered. And then you'll look and say, well, does this overall cluster set stay together? Does it actually make sense as an overall cluster set, not just within the individual clusters? Okay. And what you'll have in the cluster titles are the main themes that are emerging in each of these three horizons. Okay. And that gives a better context for the individual stickies and the individual clusters. Okay. Yep. Right. I just wanted to get through process. Basically.
Just one question. So what if I want to cluster it as in food supply and food demand, and then somebody else wants to cluster it in different health outcomes, so or different groups like children versus wider population, or wants to separate obesity from heart disease or something like that? You
have to have a dialogue around it and figure a way through it.
Okay, so we have to decide for one thing, and we cannot associate one post-it with different.
Well, actually, that's a separate matter, because it's not a separate matter, but it's of the essence of what you're saying. Sometimes you get a post-it note. Hang on, that relates to that and that and that and that. You do have that happen sometimes. So it is okay to duplicate them, but not to do that as the sort of first act that you do if you get a bit of a contention. Not something you should do all the time. Otherwise, everything in systems work, everything is connected to everything else. That's sort of the issue there. Okay.
And I guess it will also come out, Ulrika, that we don't want, from however many post-its there are here, we don't want 30 clusters. So at some point we're going to be forced to look, come on, we want a meaningful number, of clusters rather than. So I think it will just emerge, as Ian's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, what I suggest you do, this is also a question of learning our way into it as well. Okay, it's a matter of doing that really. Often what happens is you find that actually we need to split a cluster in two, because there are two issues in there. They're both about the same major topic, but they're two separate issues. You can have that happen as well. And then what we do, what we haven't seen yet, is the clustering we go to next. Well, once we've done this clustering tomorrow, we will then take those cluster titles and say, well, how do these all fit together into bigger groups? And at that point, you can start to do exactly what you're talking about. If you've got one that's referring to one aspect of this topic, another referring to another aspect of it, you can have two clusters and bring them together, put a loop around them, and then name that as a theme. Okay, so the idea is, like I say, not to lose anything, and not to, well, it's a question of bringing through that which we feel are the important themes that we need to observe, look out for, take care of, and help shift. It's a question of doing that. Okay. Down here on Mural, if you're on my shared screen right now.
Yeah, Ian, sorry, Peter had a question.
Yeah.
About the,
Go for it, Peter.
I put it in the chat because I couldn't get my head around how to ask it. But is there a reverse check that I didn't articulate it very well in the chat either, and I won't do now, that all of those points that we've got in that cluster could have come from me?
Yep.
Or do we know that people are always together? So one individual would have done 73, 74, 75. So right. As long as we have numbers from different parts of the numbers, there are significantly different numbers, we're safe. But if we get 71, 72, 73, 74, 75 as a cluster, then it could be that it was just one individual, and therefore we've got good analysis on poor data. or limited data?
This is Horizon 1 question 1 as it comes out in its raw form from the survey.
Okay.
The gap here says that's the end of one person's response.
Okay.
But actually, it doesn't come out looking like that. That's not actually a good example. Let me just see if I can find that one. That's a better example of what they come out looking like in the first place. They look like that. This is real. This is the real McCoy. So last night or yesterday when I was doing this, that's what H1Q2 looks like to me when I first see it. The job of distilling is then to say, well, hang on, if I look there, I think that's a new point. Okay, and do that with it. Okay. So again, but you can see the gaps here. Okay. Yeah. Okay with that. Great. So we can then track that back to the actual survey software, and we can actually see who's made those comments. Okay, we can do that. Now, if we then look at the next one, just very quickly, I don't want to spend, this is just the background I want to help you with. H1Q2 results, unformatted, formatted. Okay. That, by a process of literally manually going through what you've just seen, as long you get to something that looks like this. Okay. Okay. And so I could look here and say there is 72, 73, 74, 75 and 76. Okay. And if I need to, I can track back to the survey if I wanted to and find. Now we have an ethics issue here, but only a couple of us are actually allowed to see who said what. Okay, we're not, it's just otherwise it's just that's part of the ethics agreement that we have. But yes, we can track it back. Does that help?
Yeah. So 72 to 76 is one person's response.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So when we look at this, then without referring to your Word document, we could look at that and go, that's probably representative of a number of people. We're safe. But if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, better check.
But Peter, I disagree about this safe thing, because I didn't answer it to cover all bases. I thought I'd just answer from, what I particularly observe, what I particularly know about. And I think, we're not publishing this as this is a representative survey of the entire population of what they think. It's just capturing thoughts and input. So I don't think we have to worry. That's my opinion. I don't know.
I would agree.
I have to request a timeout at that point. If you can see my hands doing that, I'm requesting a timeout because we have 7 minutes left. 7 minutes left in this call. Okay, and I'm conscious of wanting to get the necessary and sufficient done in this call to help for tomorrow. Okay, I just want to show you that, to show you the audit trail, the kind of audit trail that we have for every single question. Okay, and the color coding will let us know at any time what any single square goes back to. That gives us the color coding for the question. The number takes us back to here. That will take us back into the actual survey, and we can track it all the way back. Okay, we good for that? Right, let me just clear some of this away. And I've now lost the mural, so I've got to find that again. There we are. Because we are there. Okay, the next thing we do, if you look at the shared screen right now, there's a couple of things I really want to show you, if I may. Bottom right down here on the shared screen is a little map of the mural. Can you see that? And if I move the color coded part around, that's my screen, and I can very rapidly go to anywhere I want on the mural just by doing that, rather than having to go up, 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 down, 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 right, 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 left, 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 left. Okay. What I want to do is say, look, this has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is it 9? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, 9. That's got 9 in it, so I need one of the circles that is for 9, and that's this one here, 9 to 12. I Control D that, which copies it for me, and then if I just zoom right out very quickly, I can very easily come like this and just plant that circle in there, like that, and you can see exactly what I would do next. I would tidy that up and then put a cluster title in the center. And at this point, we've got to figure out what this is about. Okay, what's it about? Now, sometimes what happens, not always, but quite often, is that you get a single post-it note that sort of says what this cluster's about. So is this cluster actually about poor food culture? Is that what it's actually about? And that's it? And the rest of it is evidence for, symptoms of poor food culture. It is perfectly okay to just put in poor food culture if that's what we decide. If we decide that that title on its own, if I haven't got the post-it notes around it, I know what it means. Okay, what is it? But so we could have poor food culture and its impact. We could have that as a cluster title. Okay, so we just, that's all that we do. The last thing to do with the clusters, once we've got them as we'd like to be them, and this bit of tweaking here just shows that you can actually read all the words around the outside, takes a little time to do. To do what's referred to as marqueeing by technical nerds like me, which is to hold the shift key down, my cursor's right here, and just do this with it to grab those things inside. If I then right click, I get the option to group. And if I group them, they are now a single item. So if I grab any of them, the whole thing moves in one go. It's exactly as you'd expect it to be. Okay, and there are other menu options up here. This will decrease the font size, that will increase the font size. With this one, I can do different types of text. That says, do I have a border around the circle or the square? That's the colour, but it won't do it in a group for right now, and so on.
Ian, I think we don't need the groups to be too concerned about making it look pretty.
No, absolutely.
So, but I just want to double check that the groups people are clear about this clustering title thing. So A, it's got to be in capital letters.
Yeah.
B, you're looking at 8 to 10 words max.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking for the essence of that. We're not looking for, I mean, and I say this because I'm terrible at this, an essay. I would write an essay. So yeah, short and sweet that captures that essence.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Esther, feedback, please. What else do I or you need to cover in this call as far as you're concerned? I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah, so I will send round the murals. They're all prepared. I will be with your group tomorrow when it starts, so we can walk through this. You're not going to be kind of left on your own on this one. But are there any questions that are you feeling that there's any big gaps at the moment? Does it all make sense roughly with someone there to, just in case you've got questions? In the team on the November the 15th, I will be there, and I'm very okay with using Mural. So Peter and Jan, who's not here, don't worry about any of the technical stuff. I'll cover that. So it's more about your brains.
And I'll be in the call on the 15th.
Yeah. And then what we're going to do is on the 17th, we've also got something in your diary. We're all going to come back together and review this all as a whole group and go, and then maybe make some changes, because it's an iterative process. So it's never set in stone. These are suggestions and we will keep reviewing it. So don't be worried about that. But you're all quite experienced people, so I'm sure you're not. Catherine.
Very quick question from me is, when we get to the end, we might be left with 5 miscellaneous, and it's okay to make a judgment saying, no, that's minor, let's park them and never use them.
Well, there's several categories there. So I've left them all in. Some people say, this looks like the same as the previous question, nothing to add. Now I've left that comment in. You don't want that on the map. Some people just says N/A, not applicable. Okay. One person throughout all of it, not throughout all of it, but has repeatedly said, I only work on a national level, so I don't really have anything to say about the food culture in Yorkshire. That's a judgment call. Okay. And also you may find that on occasion some of the responses just don't fit, and sometimes you have one response stands on its own. It doesn't cluster with anything, it just sits on its own, but it's an important point and we need to make note of it. It mustn't be lost. Okay, that can happen too. We're now 1 minute to go.
The only thing I was quickly, so I've not answered my own question. We're just doing this within our subsystem people, so this is then repeated for the health subsystem people and the farming, and so presumably, because yes, some of our stuff's about health, but presumably then they all get integrated at some point, or is that?
Yes. Yeah. We're trying to build an overall picture. We're diving deep Your question about who the responses that are coming forward, yes, they represent personal responses. But if you've got 700 of them, you've got a fair variety there.
Oh yeah. No, I was just thinking that the overlap between the
There
three
will
naps.
be, yeah, there will be, Catherine, and we want that. That's good, because you know that's what we're all about. You know, the interconnections between things. Yeah. While you're doing this, you're going to be learning and discussing and really getting some detail. But at the same time, Ian and myself are going to be working out that kind of how we're going to be doing that in connecting all together. There's a way we're going to do it. We haven't got the exact details.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Just trying to think.
What I find with this work is sometimes you have to make a judgment call based on what's actually in front of you rather than what you thought was going to be in front of you.
Yeah.
You know, that happens. Okay. Just very briefly, I'm working with an organisation looking at the whole of the European health ecosystem. It's all surgeons, doctors, general practitioners, consultants, legislative people, all that kind of stuff. Their second horizon, their first horizon said inadequate long-term vision causes all the problems, and it's still inadequate. The third horizon said future thinking to help adaptation. The second horizon, no one saw coming. It said mobilization of social movements to drive cultural change. They didn't see that coming as health professionals, but that's what actually came out of their combined input. And they all pointed at it and said, actually, now you mention it, yeah. So, yeah, we'll see where it goes. Are we good to go? I can stay a little bit longer if everybody wants to, but I'm just conscious of the timing for the meeting.
Is there any further questions? Okay. Well, I'll have a chat with Ian now, make sure that we've got all the documents and the mural links that I will send over to you all. But just check in. I'm here. Check in with me if there's any questions or problems or whatever. As well as Eureka's also a key contact here. But yeah, don't be shy. I'm sure you wouldn't. So yeah, and it's an iterative process. We're all learning about this, so it's all fine. We'll get through it together.
Great, thank you. See you tomorrow.
Take care. Thank you very much for your time.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, Eureka. I was about to say Eureka. Are we good? Are we I just need to send out the mural links?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you want to do anything on those mural links color-wise?
Actually, no. I think what's happened is the one that we chose to illustrate is a different color, but that doesn't mean the colors are only, as long as we maintain color consistency in the work that we're doing, that's all that matters really. And as long
stop
as
recording.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
I wasn't thinking. Where's it gone? Stop recording.